The year is 2024. In a dim, humming server room stacked with steel racks and blinking LEDs, a million invisible computations flicker across silicon. Somewhere inside this maze of heat and electricity, a quiet question lingers. How did a programming language named after a British comedy troupe become the nervous system behind Netflix recommendations, SpaceX rockets, TikTok algorithms, and even the AI generating this very sentence? You think you already know Python, the easy language, the beginner-friendly one, the tool data scientists use when they're not wrestling with CUDA or SQL. That reputation feels simple, familiar, safe. But beneath that calm surface lives a stranger story. A story built from stubborn idealism, unexpected rebellion, accidental brilliance. A story shaped by late nights, abandoned projects, corporate indifference, and a global community that refused to let the language die. Something deeper beats at its core, something human. And the stakes? They're everywhere. In 2016, an emergency rewrite kept Instagram alive as it scaled to 500 million users, powered by Python. In 2018, a NASA satellite data pipeline almost collapsed because of a tiny Python version conflict buried in a forgotten script. In 2023, a small AI startup raised $42 million with nothing but Jupyter notebooks and audacity. From a lonely Dutch office in 1989 to billion-dollar AI labs racing toward the future, Python travels through chaos, conflict, and unexpected triumphs. It didn't conquer the world because it was powerful. It conquered because it was readable, gentle, humane. This is the story of Python, the language that wasn't supposed to win. Chapter 1. Guido in the Winter. Have you ever wondered how a bored engineer on Christmas break accidentally created the most influential programming language on Earth? Why a lonely winter in Amsterdam reshaped the future of software. Rewind to 1989. Amsterdam. A freezing December wind rattles the windows of a small CWI research office. Inside, under harsh fluorescent light, sits Guido van Rossum. 33 years old, brilliant, quiet, allergic to complexity. He studies the languages around him. Perl with its chaotic cleverness, C with its sharp edges, shell scripts that feel like puzzles designed to punish mistakes, and he feels a kind of exhaustion. Programming shouldn't feel like combat. It should feel like communication. So he starts tinkering. Not with a grand plan, not with funding, just an idea. A language built on clarity. A language that forces readability through indentation. A choice so radical it borders on insulting to traditional programmers. He writes the first working interpreter on a Macintosh 2 that cost $5,498 in 1989. More than $13,000 today. He names the project after the Monty Python comedy troupe because the seriousness of the idea needs a joke to balance it. Guido uploads early versions to Usenet, expecting silence. Instead, the opposite happens. Messages appear. People download it. People try it. People come back. Something unexpected has begun to form in the cold Dutch winter. A spark. A following. A rebellion wrapped inside a joke. And soon, the misfits will start to gather. Chapter 2. Python's Underground Years. For 3 years, the most promising new language on the early internet barely clocks more users than a niche mailing list. Python looks alive, but only just. By 1994, the spark Guido van Rossum lit in that cold Amsterdam office flickers across continents. In a cramped internet cafe in Washington, D.C., surrounded by the mechanical screech of dial-up modems, 27-year-old Mark Lutz feeds Python documentation into a dot matrix printer that takes 7 agonizing minutes per page. Lutz is blunt, intense, and exhausted by the chaos of C++. He reads Python's indentation, its clarity, its honesty, and sees a lifeline. He isn't alone. Barry Warsaw, quirky, energetic, addicted to the early open source world, joins Python's orbit, bringing a rare sense of community when most programmers operate in isolation. And then there's Tim Peters, the poetic engineer who later pens The Zen of Python, turning unwritten principles into a manifesto. Together, they push a language the establishment openly mocks. Sun Microsystems engineers laugh at it. University professors refuse to teach it. Publishers reject Lutz's early drafts of programming Python until he self-publishes in 1996. When O'Reilly unexpectedly picks it up, the book sells over 100,000 copies by 1999, a number no one predicts for a so-called toy language. The evolution begins. Shell scripts collapse under complexity, Perl buckles under its own cleverness, and Python offers something radical simplicity that scales with thought. A community forms, small, passionate, determined. But Python still sits on the fringes, ignored by the giants. And just as it starts to rise, a crisis threatens to erase everything they've built. The storm is coming. Chapter 3, the language that couldn't keep up. Remember those early believers? The misfits, printing documentation, arguing on mailing lists, building something the industry dismissed? By the year 2000, their rebellion finally gains momentum. But momentum creates pressure, and pressure exposes cracks. At the International Python Conference in 2000, the mood feels heavy. Developers pack into a beige fluorescent conference room in Alexandria, Virginia. Laptops click, coffee cools, complaints sharpen. Python can't keep up. Benchmarks circulate showing tasks running 10 to 50 times slower than comparable C code. Not twice, not 5 times, 50. All eyes turn to Guido van Rossum. He looks tired. Burnout clings to him. For years, he carried the interpreter almost entirely alone, fixing bugs, designing features, answering mailing lists, steering a community that grows faster than he can manage. Now companies experimenting with Python quietly retreat. A major European telecom, after months of internal pitches and prototypes, cancels a Python migration worth 3.2 million euros. Engineers whisper that the language is too slow, too niche, too idealistic. Guido pushes forward anyway, releasing Python 2. It adds power list comprehensions, Unicode support, stronger internals but also contradictions that split the community. The seeds of a future civil war are planted here, disguised as progress. Python stands on a knife's edge. It risks becoming a historical footnote, another language that couldn't scale beyond its ideals. And then, just as the community braces for decline, a tech giant halfway across the world begins to notice something unusual in Python's simplicity. Everything is about to change. Chapter 4. Python becomes a power tool. The meeting starts with tension thick enough to cut. Mountain View, 2004. Conference room CR-24. A young Larry Page scans Google's sprawling codebase, and the frustration hits instantly. Too many languages, too much chaos, too much friction slowing a company growing faster than any in Silicon Valley history. Something must change. Now. Peter Norvig, calm and analytical, steps into the moment. He argues for a language that balances speed of thought with speed of execution. Greg Stein backs him, armed with internal metrics showing engineers losing entire weeks to verbose Java boilerplate and slow C++ iteration cycles. Their proposal feels almost absurd inside the world's most ambitious engineering organization. Python, a language mocked throughout the 1990s. A language with visible performance problems. A language built by a soft-spoken Dutch idealist who still replies to mailing lists personally. But Page listens. By 2005, Guido van Rossum walks through Google's front doors with a badge, a salary, and an unofficial title whispered across teams: Benevolent Dictator for Life. His mission is simple: make Python scale to Google levels. And that mission ignites a transformation. Python becomes one of Google's 3 official languages. Internal tools rewritten in Python save an estimated 11,000 engineering hours every year. Whole teams shift overnight. The industry takes notice. Python isn't fringe anymore. It's infrastructure. It's power. It's suddenly everywhere. But with growth comes pressure, and with pressure comes fracture. Because the next evolution Guido triggers will divide the community more than anything before. A civil war is forming. Chapter 5. Python 2 versus Python 3, 80%. By 2008, that's the percentage of Python packages still clinging to Python 2, even as the future barrels toward them like a freight train they refuse to board. The community feels electric and volatile. Guido van Rossum stands at the center of a storm he created. After Google's embrace, Python surges in popularity, but its foundations strain under their own contradictions. Unicode remains a mess. Legacy decisions haunt every release, and Guido reaches a conclusion he knows will fracture everything. Python needs a clean break. Python 3. The announcement lands like a thunderclap across mailing lists. Armin Ronacher, sharp and fearless, argues that Python 3 sabotages real-world developers with incompatible changes and unclear benefits. David Beasley, a brilliant systems mind, finds himself torn between technical elegance and the brutal reality of production systems that simply cannot migrate. Heated threads stretch for hundreds of messages. Conferences turn into battlegrounds. Companies dig in, refusing to rewrite millions of lines of stable Python 2 code. The Unicode overhaul becomes the flashpoint. Necessary, visionary, painful. Every migration hits breakages. Every dependency becomes a minefield. For many, it feels like betrayal. For others, rebirth. By 2013, the numbers still look grim. 4 out of 5 packages remain Python 2 only. Momentum stalls. The rebellion that once united misfits now threatens to split them in two. But a new force gathers beyond the horizon. Scientists, analysts, and researchers who care less about language wars and more about unlocking knowledge. And they are about to pull Python into an entirely new era. Chapter 6. When Python becomes the default brain of the planet. Wes McKinney sits hunched over a cluttered desk at AQR Capital in 2008, surrounded by blinking Bloomberg terminals and mountains of CSV files that refuse to behave. He is driven, obsessive, and dangerously close to giving up. But then he does something small, something quiet. He starts writing a Python library to tame the financial data chaos swallowing his days. He calls it Pandas, and everything that follows reshapes the world. Across the country, Fernando Perez Warm, collaborative, endlessly curious, builds IPython as a tool for scientists who think in experiments instead of code. His notebook interface feels like magic. Code, results, visualizations, and notes living together in real time. Meanwhile, Travis Oliphant pushes NumPy and SciPy into existence, giving Python numerical power it was never designed to have. Together, these three create the toolkit that will drive the next decade. Then the spark catches fire. Kaggle competitions explode. 80% of top entries use Python. In 2016, Instagram scales to 95 million photos per day, powered by a Django backend written almost entirely in Python. In 2018, PyPI surpasses 150,000 packages, a gravitational pull no other language can resist. Python evolves from a scripting language to the interface of machine intelligence. Every model, every experiment, every breakthrough. Scientists crave speed without bureaucracy. Python gives them both. And as deep learning accelerates, Python becomes the default brain of the planet. But success comes with a cost. Growth strains the interpreter, concurrency collapses under pressure, and the global interpreter lock begins to look like a ticking bomb. The limits are approaching fast, and soon, Python will be forced to confront them. Chapter 7. Python meets its limits. Fast forward to 2020. The world has rewritten itself in code, and Python stands at the center of nearly every breakthrough. But inside TikTok's engineering division, a problem quietly detonates. Thousands of servers run Python-powered machine learning pipelines, and suddenly, they start choking. Latency spikes. Recommendations stall. The system groans under its own success. And the culprit is brutal in its simplicity: concurrency. Python's global interpreter lock. 3 words that haunt every engineer pushing the language beyond its comfort zone. Łukasz Langa, cheerful, intense, and famously relentless, begins rewriting massive swaths of the interpreter. He works late, breaks things often, rebuilds them stronger. Across the ocean, Sam grows quiet, surgical in his thinking, starts an experiment so ambitious it sounds like science fiction. Remove the GIL entirely. Not weaken it, not hide it, eliminate it. Meanwhile, Mark Shannon, a performance architect with a laser-focused obsession, pushes a multi-year plan to squeeze every drop of speed out of CPython. The pressure mounts. In 2021, a trading firm records a $12.4 million missed opportunity when a Python bottleneck stalls part of their data pipeline. Engineers whisper about defecting to Rust. Some already have. Then, momentum shifts. Microsoft backs Guido to work full-time on performance. Shannon's plan lands. Python 3.12 hits in 2023, delivering 10 to 60% speed boosts across real workloads. For the first time in years, hope outruns fear. But the victory is temporary. The AI wave accelerates, models balloon, compute demands explode, and a new question rises from the smoke. Can Python survive the future it created? The next battle begins now. Chapter 8. Python in the Age of AI Supremacy. The year is 2023. In a quiet corner of OpenAI's headquarters, racks of GPUs roar like jet engines as researchers run experiments that push the limits of machine intelligence. On a nearby monitor, lines of code scroll by, simple, clean, unmistakably Python. And beneath that simplicity lies a growing tension threatening to tear the language's future in half. AI demands impossible things: speed measured in nanoseconds, flexibility that bends with every new discovery. Python gives researchers freedom, but not raw power. The gap widens every month. Into this pressure cooker step the architects of Python's next era. Sebastian Ramirez, methodical yet visionary, builds Fast API into one of the fastest web frameworks in the world, proving modern Python can rival heavyweights. Jeremy Howard, a clear-eyed educator with missionary energy, pulls thousands into AI by insisting Python should be the first language, not the last. And Catherine Scott, fierce and inventive, drags Python into real-time robotics, where milliseconds decide whether a drone flies or crashes. The stakes balloon. NVIDIA reports that 70% of all AI developer workflows in 2024 begin in Python, even when deployment happens in C++ or custom silicon. Entire billion-dollar infrastructures depend on whether Python adapts or breaks. And beneath it all, the question grows louder. If Python remains the front door to AI, what happens when the house behind it changes faster than any language can evolve? The answer lies just ahead in what Python has always been. Not fast, not flashy, but profoundly human. And humanity still has one more chapter to write. Chapter 9, The Human Language. From a dim server room in 2024, back to a lonely Dutch office in 1989, the story loops. A bored engineer, a joke name, a fragile interpreter running on a $5,498 Macintosh 2. Somehow that spark carried us through underground rebellions, corporate gambles, civil wars, machine learning revolutions, and billion-dollar AI labs humming with code that still reads like English. And Python's fingerprints stretch everywhere today. In 2025, the largest publicly funded climate modeling project ever attempted analyzes petabytes of atmospheric data through a Python-driven workflow. Jupyter Notebooks orchestrate simulations. Pandas organizes planetary histories. NumPy accelerates equations that describe the fate of ecosystems. Entire nations shape policy from insights that begin with a few lines of Python. Every second, millions of AI inferences, sensor readings, financial trades, and navigation decisions originate inside Python scripts. The language runs on laptops, supercomputers, satellites, and phones. It has become the universal interface to computation itself. But the future presses harder. A hybrid world emerges, Python on the surface, Rust and other high-performance engines beneath. The GIL-free era inches closer. Python 4 whispers from the horizon, promising a language reborn for a world measured in trillions of operations per second. Yet the core question remains unchanged. In an age defined by complexity, how do humans communicate with machines without losing themselves? How do we build tools that elevate our understanding instead of burying it? That's Python's quiet rebellion. It insists that code should serve people, that clarity matters, that elegance wins. And in doing so, it reshapes who gets to program and what becomes possible when they do. The story continues.